The wilderness has a way of humbling even the most seasoned adventurers. It is a realm where beauty and danger walk hand in hand, where the air is thin, the trails disappear, and even a single misstep can mean the difference between life and death. Mike Turner, a towering 6'6" Reverend with a deep love for the mountains, understood this balance. But even he could not have imagined the fate that awaited him in the remote, unforgiving wilderness of Wyoming. Mike was not just a man of God, he was a man of the wild. As a reverend in Idaho, his life was filled with sermons, community service, and family devotion. Yet when the weight of responsibility grew heavy, he sought solace in nature. Out there, among the towering peaks and whispering pines, he felt closest to his Creator. He viewed the world as a divine masterpiece, an untouched cathedral where every mountain ridge and glacial stream sang the praises of something far greater than himself. For over a year, he meticulously planned his next great journey, a 9-day, 60-mile solo trek through the Fitzpatrick Wilderness. This was no ordinary hike. The Fitzpatrick was a land of extremes, a place so remote and untouched that few dared to venture beyond its fringes. But Mike was no ordinary hiker. He was an experienced outdoorsman, confident in his ability to navigate by map and compass through unmarked terrain. He charted his course, marking the places he would camp, where he would find water, and when he would emerge from the wilderness. He left those plans with his wife Diane, ensuring she would know where he was should something go wrong. But sometimes the best laid plans are no match for fate. On August 2nd, 1998, day 4 of his journey, Mike had reached 11,000 feet, moving confidently through the mountains with his loyal black Labrador mix, Andy, trotting by his side. Andy loved these heights, bounding ahead with boundless energy, but Mike noticed something troubling. His dog's paws were raw and bleeding from the jagged ice and rock. The path ahead, more ice, more brutal terrain, would only make it worse for Andy. Mike faced a choice: continue along his planned route or alter his course for the sake of his beloved companion. Compassion won out. He decided to veer off the course, skirting the mountains in favor of an easier path that would take longer but lead to the same destination. He knew the risk. No one knew about this change. No one would know where to find him if something went wrong. But Mike was prepared. He had extra supplies, he was confident, and above all, he had faith. But then Andy perked up, ears twitching, nose sniffing air. Without warning, the dog took off into the trees. "Andy!" Mike called. But the dog was already gone. Mike cursed under his breath, threw his pack over his shoulder, and sprinted after the dog. Emerging from the trees, Mike found himself at the edge of a sprawling boulder field. Massive rocks, some of the size of cars, stacked in a chaotic jumble, sloping down towards a pristine alpine lake. And there, near the water's edge, was Andy, tail wagging, oblivious to the trouble he had just caused. Mike sighed. The only way to reach Andy was to cross the boulders. Climbing onto the first rock, he moved carefully, hopping from boulder to boulder. Each landing was precise and calculated. He was halfway across when he stepped onto a rock that felt wrong, unsteady. The moment his full weight pressed on, it just shifted. Time slowed. The rock tilted. Instinct took over. He leaped for the next boulder, and Instead of landing safely, he hit the side of the rock and slid down between two massive boulders. Before he could scramble free, the unstable rock behind him continued to roll. It didn't crush him, it didn't break his bones, but it did something worse. It pinned his legs. Just his legs, trapping him in an unbreakable granite vise. Mike gasped in shock. He struggled, pushing, twisting, but the rock held him fast. He was immobilized, trapped in a silent, sunlit prison. Andy, sensing something was wrong, trotted back up the slope and sat beside him. "Good boy," Mike whispered. "We will figure this out." But deep down, he knew the truth. No one was coming. The first 2 hours were spent in furious, desperate effort. Mike pried, pushed, shoved, even tried to dig beneath the boulders, but they were immovable. The weight of hundreds of years of geological forces held him there, laughing at his feeble attempts. As the sun dipped below the peaks, the temperature plummeted. He wrapped himself in his sleeping bag, pulled his tent flap over his head, and prayed. Morning arrived. No rescue. No sign of life beyond the occasional hawk soaring high above. He opened his journal and began to write. "I am in your hands, Lord. I don't know what I may face." Day by day, he documented his thoughts, his prayers, his slow creeping despair. The water situation turned dire quickly. He tried tossing his water bottle, tied to a rope, towards the lake, hoping to scoop some in. The throw came up short every single time. His last hope of fresh water was gone. He wrote about his family, about his children, about Diane. He dreamed of them. He knew he would never see them again. Days passed. He tried drinking his own urine, even contemplating mixing it with powdered drink mix to make it bearable. But the dehydration worsened. His body weakened. His left leg lost all the feeling. Still, he wrote, "I am ready to die, though I miss my family." On what he must have known was his final day, he scrawled his last message, barely legible, his strength nearly gone. The message read, "Love, Dad." His trembling hands removed his wedding ring and placed it on the rock beside him. He wanted Diane to have it. He wanted something of him to return home. And then, with the sun setting once more, Mike Turner closed his eyes and he let go. Back at the trailhead, Diane had waited, checking her watch. By the 9th day, she told herself he would arrive late. By the 10th, she was uneasy. By the 11th, she knew. A search party was launched, but they had no idea he had changed his route. They scoured the wrong wilderness. After 2 weeks, the official search was called off. Then, a miracle. On August 28th, 3 weeks after Mike's disappearance, 2 backpackers stumbled upon a gaunt, whimpering black lab emerging from the trees. Andy had survived. Exhausted, he limped into their arms. Hope surged through Mike's family. If Andy was alive, could Mike be? Using Andy as a guide, a new search began. But before the faithful dog could lead them to his master, another hiker named Brian, trekking in a different part of the Fitzpatrick Wilderness, came across a tragic sight. A lone figure sitting on a boulder staring at the lake. He was still upright, his body held in place by the boulders that had claimed him. He had been gone for 29 days. Brian covered him with a jacket, retrieved his wallet for identification, and made a grueling trek back to civilization. It took him 3 days to reach help. When Diane returned home after the funeral, there was a package waiting for her. a bouquet of flowers, and a note from Mike. Thank you for letting me live this adventure. Know that wherever I am and whatever I'm doing, I am thinking of you. Diane clutched the note to her chest and wept, because she knew that he had never stopped thinking of her, not in the wilderness, not in the final moment, not ever. He had died with love in his heart, and that was how he would be remembered. Mike Turner's story is not just about survival. It is about love, faith, and the merciless power of nature. It is about the fine line between adventure and tragedy. But most of all, it is a reminder: treasure your family while you can. Because sometimes the mountains don't let you go home. But make sure you go home. Stay safe. Do subscribe to this channel for more stories.